paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, that's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
Were you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
Well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into Brainstorm Brewery. I'm Corbin, joined as always by DJ and Jason. And before we get into the show this week, I have to let you guys know aliens have been in contact with us, with the governments of the United States and Israel, according to Israel's top space expert. Like, he ran the space program or the space division in Israel for 30 years. He is former. He is now a respected professor in Israel. He says that a galactic federation type group of aliens have contacted the United States and Israel, been in contact with them for years. And he says Trump almost gave it away, but then chose not to. So, given this revelation here at the end of 2020, my question for you guys:
Didn't we start the 2020 thing with the aliens?
We might have.
Wasn't that like a January thing? Was back when they were doing the whole like, well, January's the Notre Dame and February's the other thing, and then March is Killer Bees. What's next? Like, wasn't aliens one of those things?
I mean, probably. Did we do that already? My question for y'all is this though: how long until we get this Galactic Federation of Aliens secret lair crossover? That's what I need. I mean, you could do some cool stuff.
I don't want mechanically unique cards related to waiting for us to make ourselves extinct with climate change, and then just like waiting till we're a burned out husk of a planet, and then coming and harvesting all of our lithium.
This is what you think the aliens in contact with us have been saying. Yeah.
Like, what is it? You put like 5 vanishing counters. Let's be honest, with climate change, 3 vanishing counters.
Okay.
And then get all of Earth's lithium, and then people are like, what is this card doing? He's like, don't worry about it.
So you believe that we will never be invaded by aliens because they can simply wait for us?
They're just
going to
wait because they're hanging out like in like maybe Jupiter's orbit, just waiting for us to like extinct. Because as soon as they got
plot
close,
of a Transformers movie?
All of our radio waves that went out there, like all our old TV broadcasts, like the first thing that went out was Hitler's speeches. So they're like, oh, what's this about? And then they're like, yeah, why don't we park it right here by Jupiter and just kind of like wait and see what's up. And then they contacted Israel and the United States, and they're like, oh, this guy's in charge? Netanyahu and Trump? If aliens only talked to Netanyahu and Trump, they'd just be like, you know what? This species has 10, maybe 12 years tops. We're just going to hang out. We got a nice alien ship. We got enough whatever gas we breathe to just kind of wait it out. And they're just going to let us punch ourselves out because they know we have nuclear weapons because Donald Trump told them. We got a nuclear it's huge. Our nuclear stockpile is huge. It's the most nukes you've ever seen. And they're like, oh,
I just want.
We have a laser that disintegrates. We have the Death Star thing. Like,
what magic player would you nominate?
I bet nukes would be effective against their craft. So they're like, okay, we'll just wait for you all to die then.
What magic player would you nominate to play the first game of Magic with aliens?
Frank Karsten.
Because he's a robot?
Well, I think he is he has the best chance of understanding their advanced math.
Oh.
Why don't we just send like a computer?
And while he's up there on their ship, I'll be sneakily knocking him off the Channeler speedrunning world record leaderboard.
The truth comes out, the real motivation.
I need Frank Karsten distracted. So while he's off like, palavaring with aliens and, being the first Magic player in space or whatever, I'll be down here.
And then that gives you time to chase
his world record.
That gives you time to chase his world record after that too, because when he's done with that, you'll have a new record to go for.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're gonna speed run his alien Magic player game.
Space. Oh, they're gonna teach him a new game. That would be dope.
What if
So
you just,
what I'm saying is, I don't like the idea of mechanically unique non-magic IP cards any more than I like the idea that inevitably we are going to be made extinct, not by the aliens, but by our own actions, and they are just going to not get involved. They've got their own space prime directive, and they're
you
like,
took
we're
it
not
to a
gonna,
dark place, Jason.
Wasn't
I just
there a
we're not
wanted,
going to get
whole-
involved
wanted
in an
magic in
inferior
space.
culture, because we are.
Wasn't there a whole
We're like-
thing? Wasn't there a whole thing where it had to have been some famous like astronomer or whatever who said it, who was like, if aliens are real, like the first thing they will do if they contact us is say like, hey, turn off your fucking lights because there's a reason we haven't wanted to be found yet, because there's some giant like Leviathan thing out there that'll eat everyone. Isn't that a thing? That's a thing. Somebody's listening to this and they know what I'm referring to. I'm not using great terminology. I'm not giving specifics as to the reference point, but
Was
there's
this
like
an episode of Doctor Who?
Well, I
There's-
think Stephen Hawking talked about how, like, if there are aliens, they will probably just do to us what we did to the Native Americans, and we probably don't want to, like, meet them.
Correct.
Like, what are the odds they're benevolent? Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, there's that, and there's like, if we get found, like, if they are benevolent, they're going to be like, hey, stop trying to put your signal out there because, like, you don't want to be found. Like, there's some, like,
Oh, so
eldritch...
they're going to warn us about the Space Leviathan?
Yeah.
Do you think the Space Leviathan would send, like, a Silver Surfer type person ahead? That would be cool.
I think that'd be a
Like,
better
imagine
character arc.
imagine if Silver Surfer came to our reality. He's like, where are your mightiest heroes? And they're like, I don't know. Steve Buscemi was a firefighter on 9/11. You want to talk to him? He's like, I will talk to this Steve Buscemi. And he's like, hey, how's it going? He's like, what are your superpowers? He's like, I don't know. I get to be in movies all the time, despite my face kind of looking like I fell down a flight of stairs and landed on my mouth. He's like, oh, so you don't have any superheroes? He's like, yeah, none to speak of. And then Silver Surfer would just turn his like, Galactus is just going to straight eat your whole planet. Good luck. Thanks for the SETI project beaming out your exact location.
But
for
on the
last
way
20
down,
years.
but think about what the Planeswalker Silver Surfer crossover they made would look like on the way out. I'm just saying, consider the possibilities.
I don't think he would be exactly
Gavin
Silver
Verhey
Surfer.
is
Expand
just
your
like
mind.
Gavin Verhey is just being like irradiated by the space cannon they send. He's like with his dying breath, he's like hits send file or whatever. Yeah.
And so we get the crossover. That's all I want. Safe to say they're making a lot of secret layers these days.
Can I talk? Well, one other thing. Can we talk about how like this isn't just Wizards that does this, but when they make like when they use like nonsense words to promote their product, like the one that I saw recently is like secretversary. Like just stop. No, like what is no. It's the
marketing.
secretversary because it's the 1 year. No, just like use a regular
Stop
word.
trying to make Secretversary happen.
Use a regular word. It's like the Secret Lair 1 year anniversary. You don't need to make like some stupid made up like that's I'm not alone in that.
This is such a boomer complaint.
No, it's not.
You're mad because they use the word secretversary.
It's just stupid. That's not a boomer thing.
You're a
It's just-
boomer. You're a boomer.
Oh man. One of the secret layers I like the most is the Seb McKinnon one, but that's not the only one they have because we found out that it's going to be an entire series of secret layers focusing on artists. And we talked last week and the last couple weeks about how secret layers as a concept, as a product, are not going anywhere. So we kind of just need to get on board. And I have to say, if this is the way they're going to produce them, highlighting artists like Seb McKinnon, like the Foglios, who you can go to originalmagicart.store and check out the Foglio portfolio, or as we call it, the Portfolio. But anyways, with the secret layers, I think it's really cool if they're going to highlight all the artists like that. I will take a million more of
pronounced
those.
folio. It's the folio.
The folio. I see.
It's not foglio. We've been told by someone who knows Italian.
What happens when we get the Doctor Who?
Ristic Studies himself
Crossover.
said, "Hey, it's folio." But like, I thought you would just like say foglio to make sure, because folio, you sound weird. You sound like that dude in Goodfellas, like, hey, I'm gonna go get the papers. So
Okay.
I don't want to sound like that dude from Goodfellas.
Great.
So it's the Foglio folio, because I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, it's cool. I mean, these are what secret layers should be. And if we're going to get mechanically unique cards or just these crossovers in general, I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot about secret layers once we kind of, the wheels have been turning since we saw the metal ones and we see the artist series and we see kind of what the product can be, keeping in mind the Walking Dead thing. But seriously, like what happens when they get the Doctor Who Magic crossover secret layer? They'll make $100 million in 10 minutes.
What we said on the podcast, we said, hey, it'll be fine, because as much as I didn't enjoy having Twitter suck for 3 days, everybody will send a message to them that like, hey, we don't want these mechanically unique cards, so if you have one of those in the pipe, cut it off, blah, blah, blah. We said all that. Yeah. We're like, yeah. And then after that episode aired, we saw a statement from them saying, well, Walking Dead was the best-selling one ever, so clearly...
And that's why this is coming up again, because of that.
Non-Magic the Gathering players bought these, and it was really just people who had never bought a secret layer before and knowing that was going to be worth all the money and then buying and pre-selling into the hype. So, like, yeah, of course... like people that never bought secret layers are gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be worth money.
Well, they also said that it was mostly people who ordering in 1 and 2s, not whatever the max was.
Well, that's also because of people's budgets. Like, not many people have the ability to buy 30.
I just think it's hard to argue with the data that it was very popular. Obviously, some amount of that is.
You're not arguing with the data saying it's popular. You're arguing with the data saying why it's popular.
I agree.
I'm saying that they learned the wrong lesson, like they so often do. And us having faith in the process and being like, well, once people made it clear that they didn't like this, but like the people who like said this was the last straw and they're quitting Magic and stuff, like they always say that. So like, of course they're ignoring the people who are most likely to complain. So really, like they made Twitter kind of annoying for a while, but also ultimately accomplished nothing. So I kind of think that any faith we had in WotC to like listen to those complaints was unfounded, because I think when people complain about everything, if you complain about everything, then like your complaints mean nothing. So I kind of think they just looked at the sales data and said, well, this was a big seller and this could bring people from outside the game into the game. We're going to run it back. So this is what we get.
I don't know that the question for them to figure out is whether or not the mechanically unique appeal of the cards, as opposed to the Godzilla treatment where they have the same
just
names,
to a Godzilla,
if that's what actually drove the buying action. And I think it is. I think it's pretty unlikely that it did. I think that is a Twitter phenomenon. I think that that's a MTG Finance subreddit phenomenon, and I don't think that that's I don't think that outweighs the other parts of it that extend beyond these small parts. Like, we're all viewing it through our bubble of, yeah, Magic players bought these because they knew they could sell them for lots of money, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's been true of some of the secret layers in the past, too. I just don't want to discount the possibility that maybe it was legitimately popular and it worked. And it got people in. And we'll see in the future if they adjust to the mechanically unique complaint.
You can even...
We'll see about that.
Make Godzilla shit all day long. I do not care.
Yeah. I think you can make the argument that non-Magic players bought this, and that those non-Magic players are Walking Dead fans who will buy any product that has the Walking Dead on it, and that a very, very low percentage of those people who bought that product are going to convert to Magic, because those people probably have like collectible cereal boxes from Walking Dead, but that doesn't mean that they're fucking cereal fans. Like, that just means
But is that bad? Like, what's the problem? What is the problem with that?
Like, if you, like, then you're not getting additional like Magic players. You're just getting one-time customers at the risk of pissing off everybody.
How do you know that's the goal of the product? Like, not everything is for everybody, and not every product is for every.
But like
purpose.
it can't be the goal of the product if the cost is that many people like alienating that many of your franchise player base from that product.
But like, it was the best-selling one. I mean, it was the same price point as the other secret layers, right?
Making that one the best-selling one can make other ones like much, much, much less best-selling ones, because you piss off everyone who was buying every single one that had come out previously and now won't buy one.
This is also speculative. I don't know.
Is there data?
It is, but like, I don't think that
It's just
catering to the
overreacting to
crowd.
Twitter drama,
I don't
in
think
my
catering
opinion.
to the crowd of like I buy this the like as a non-Magic player, like I buy the one for my fandom. Like I don't think catering to that crowd.
Why
is a good
wouldn't
plan.
you want to make money off of those people if you're? Why wouldn't
Because-
you want Wizards to take money from people who are never going to play Magic and put it back into the Magic ecosystem?
Well,
that doesn't make any
because
sense
you
to
can
me.
make everyone who plays Magic like turned off from that product in the future. That's why. Like if you have enough of those people who are like, I was buying every Secret Lair, but I don't like the way you did this, therefore I'm never buying a Secret Lair again.
That's the question is the line that they did this The Walking Dead, or is it that they made it mechanically unique and will they adjust to that? I think that's the question. I don't think there's anything wrong with making, say, a Doctor Who crossover and getting 1 million people who like Doctor Who and are never going to play Magic to put money into the Magic ecosystem. I don't see
No,
that
for
being
sure.
bad.
They're
I agree.
Funko Pops at
Yeah.
that point, but like,
But that's a Godzilla thing, and that's not a
Yeah, I mean, look, that's what we all want.
Yeah.
That's what
And that's
we're
why
all
you can't
advocating for
turn
here.
multiple dials in that project like that, because then you get like you skew your hypothesis. You don't have the end result data
Yeah.
to
Right.
show which
Well,
variable was.
And that's the question. We'll see how they adjust. I think that we're all going to be really interested to see what the next crossover Secret Lair looks like. But for what it's worth, the metal one is, I don't know if you'd call it a crossover per se, but I mean, it's not an IP
Well, I mean,
crossover,
they had a
but
metal
they're starting to
band.
experiment.
they had what?
they have
Lacuna
Lacuna Coil.
Yeah, do the spoiling. So like, that was cool.
Yeah. So I think that it's going to be interesting to play out. But the reason I brought this up, and this is an interesting discussion that it spurred, was simply to say that I do like the direction of showing off artists and showing off that sort of
Sure.
using these to push good causes inside of. I guess just serving markets that hadn't otherwise been served is the way I look at it. And metal fans is one of them, right? Lots of Magic players listen to metal and really like those. And if somebody who's sort of aware of Magic but likes metal sees them and says, well, maybe I'm going to get these, well, then that's great too. So there's a balance to be struck there. So we'll see where they go from here. But I know where we're going to go from here, and that's breaking some bulk.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, breaking bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
Jeez, that was.
Smooth.
Is this week
That was-
Speed 2 reference? Are we going to connect everything to Speed 2 this week?
That was like a bus or a boat that could not stop.
It reminds me of the Fast and the Furious 2, which also ended on a boat, if you recall.
I didn't recall. I didn't see Fast and the Furious. Was that Tokyo Drift? Was that Fast and
No.
the Furious 2?
No, that was like Fast and the Furious 2.5, but it's actually a prequel or something. I don't really
I
recall.
think Tokyo Drift is the best in the series, because like nobody pretended it was good like they do with the other ones. Like they pretend the Fast and the Furious movies are good, but with Fast and the Furious 2 starring Kirkland Brand, Channing Tatum, and Lil Bow Wow, they didn't even pretend that was going to be good. It was like the trailer told you when he goes, "It's drift. If you ain't out of control, you ain't in control." And then everyone went around for like a week with their nose bleeding. Like, what does that mean? What does it mean if you ain't out of control, you ain't in control? What? That doesn't. And then like that phrase just burrows its way into your brain. And then you like 3 years later, you're trying to like take a test in college. This was me. I was trying to take my inorganic chemistry final, and I couldn't think about how I was supposed to draw the inside of an NMR because I kept thinking, if you ain't out of control, you ain't in control. And like, I just bombed that test. So Lil Bow Wow made me have to retake a class is what I'm saying. So that could happen to you. Don't make movies that bad.
Good.
Don't do
to
it.
know. I've got an Odyssey Uncommon. An Odyssey colorless Uncommon.
Odyssey.
Mm,
Is
reprinted
it that
once.
mannequin thing?
Twice. Mystery
Milliken?
Boosters and Eternal Masters and Mystery Boosters. What, Jason?
Milliken?
It is Milliken.
yeah.
It's the
Milliken,
only
for
one I
those who
could
don't
think
know. This one surprised me finding it in Eternal Masters bulk. I was sorting the other day, but it's just a 2-mana artifact creature. It's a 0/1. Tap to add a colorless to your pool and put the top card of your library into your graveyard. it looks like it's kind of been moving basically this year, 2020, but it's over $1 for an uncommon, both from Odyssey, Mystery Boosters, and Eternal Masters. And Eternal Masters Hulk is something you can legitimately find.
I used to play this card forever ago in like 2010, 2009 in my Glissa the Trader command.
Okay,
commander deck.
so
Wow.
listen to the top commanders for Milliken. Around Me of the Dead Tide, which is like the number 2 Commander Legends. Tormod and Ghost of Ramirez DiPietro, Sir Conrad the Grip, Arkham Dagson. Those are the top 4 on EDH Rec. Emery the Lurker is in the mix. So this is very much a very recent card.
I wonder if it got like a YouTuber or like a Command Zone E.
Well, it looks like it's been moving a couple different times over the course of the year. It's a little spiky, but there's been movement on the card. Certainly most of it is
an Emery
concentrated
card.
over the past several months. People built it in
Rona and Whisper, and those were Dominaria cards. Hogak, Teshar. So like Dominaria, it moved probably, and then like around Throne, it probably moved.
There's been a lot of growth on the card in 2020, so it's an interesting one for sure. Jason,
Sir Conrad, Emery, Sir Conrad, Ghost of Ramirez DiPietro, Arami. So like, yeah, I could see that. Plus, with it being printed in a master set, people remembered it was a card. There were some cards that would be like fantastic, but nobody remembers their cards because they were printed in Odyssey.
Plus, maybe they're ugly, right? At this point, 85-90% of your deck is going to have very new frames or post 2015 stamping or whatever, right? And some of those old cards really kind of stand out ugly when they're the only thing in your deck that looks like that.
Yes,
sure.
So sometimes even if you find a card and you're like, "Is this?" I mean, because I say this because I've gone through this. I've seen a card and like, this would be pretty cool, but it just looks bad, right? And I'll have to play this card that is different instead.
You know what else looks bad and has the old frame? Because it's from Stronghold, a red Stronghold uncommon. Creature.
I don't have a clue.
Is it Mog Assassin?
That was not Stronghold.
Is that Exodus?
Mog Assassin was
from Exodus.
Was Exodus.
Okay.
You're thinking Mog Maniac?
So that's a good call, but
I don't know.
Mog
I mean,
Maniac
I was
is the
thinking
card.
of Mog Assassin, but you're right. I was misremembering the set.
Is it Mog Maniac from Stronghold?
It's Mog Maniac.
Okay.
Jared Carthalion is pretty popular, and Mog Maniac is going in those decks because you're dealing a lot of damage to your stuff, and Mog Maniac is one of those creatures that you want in play when you cast that Blasphemous Act.
Also,
Mog Maniac
Obosh.
is... What's that?
Also Obosh, right? This card. I mean, Ikoria was the last, like one set ago, basically. That's pretty recent. And I have a friend who's been playing a bunch of Obosh damage doubling stuff. This would go great in it.
Yeah. So, Mog Maniac is like a buck on TCG Player. It's just one of those cards that like, it looks like it's less on Card Kingdom until you go to Card Kingdom and find out they're almost sold out at like 70 cents. So this will be like a buck everywhere pretty soon. It's just a card that you can find, for like a nickel in boxes at the LGS. This is a card people have got, and don't bulk this out. But like increasingly, it gets real tricky when you're buying bulk of sets that didn't have the colored expansion symbol. Like that's just great anyway, right? It's hard to get that stuff in bulk these days, but if you do, it's great because people leave rares in there all the time. Because, who would expect Life Lace to be a rare in 4th edition,
Yeah.
So
Right, exactly.
you get bulk rares in those all the time, and you get just like pretty decent cards that nobody even really thought to look up because it just looks like bulk. So if you end up getting any Stronghold bulk, congrats, because there's all kind of stuff that gives you shadow in that block and all kind of just unfair stuff. So yeah, hit the LGS. These are mispriced.
All the nomads on core for everyone's pauper decks. Yeah.
DJ, what do you got?
I have a red Cold Snap common that has never been reprinted.
Scred.
Rite of Flame?
Scred.
No. Red of Flame was reprinted in a dual deck?
It's not Scred.
It's not Scred.
Cryoclasm.
No.
Cryoclasm was reprinted. That was
In
an 8th
10th
edition or
edition, I
something. It was in the...
10th
It was
edition,
whatever the next core set was.
Doesn't it deal with snow cards?
Yeah.
It's destroy target island or plains, I think, and if it's
snow covered, they take 3.
And then they reprinted it into
or it's
a
like
core
destroy
set?
target land.
Destroy target land. If it's a
Anyway.
plains or island, they take 3.
Anyways,
Yeah, I
that's
think
not the
what it
answer,
is.
so that's fine. Go ahead.
We just
keep
want to
going,
figure out
I
what
guess.
cryoclasm does, you jerk.
Cryoclasm
Just let
actually, I
us-
just looked it up. It actually has nothing to do with snow. However, the art is a snow thing.
Yeah.
So, and it was originally printed in Cold Snap. So that's just kind of weird, I guess. But anyways, I don't know.
Does it have a keyword ability?
I mean, yes, kind. I know kind
Does
of
it have
is
a cold
shitty
snap
answer.
specific keyword ability?
Is it the Red
Yes.
Martyr?
Yes, it has a Cold Snap specific keyword.
So I don't know
Like-
what the card's called, but it's the thing with Ripple.
No, it's not Ripple. Like, I understand that kind of is a shitty answer to that question, but
what's
kind of.
what's the card?
Thermopod.
What does Thermopod do?
I was thinking it was a spell.
It is a 5-mana 4/3. You can pay 1 snow mana to give it haste, but what's really relevant is that it is just Phyrexian Altar for red mana.
Oh wow! Sack a creature, add red to your pool. No kidding.
So, if you don't want to spend $20+ on Phyrexian Altar, and you happen to be playing some red-black sacrifice deck, this is just fine. It's a creature, which means it's easier to get onto the battlefield via non-casting methods, and it's a snow creature for whatever that's worth. I don't think you ever pay to give this thing haste, because it is just a living Phyrexian Altar for red.
It's pretty good.
It's been on the upswing for the past year and a half or so. I've just had it sitting on my desk for a while, and it's just one of those cards where if the right commander is ever printed, this immediately goes to $16, but it's also at a reasonable risk of reprint where they could just chuck it in something and then it's not $16. So I mean, it's a nice little $1 find. I think you can err on the side of like holding on to these if you just are that kind of person that likes to have 600 of one card in a box.
It's
Well,
a
this
lot
is-
of mana.
This is one of the times where this is the profile. We talk about this a little bit on the show sometimes, but generally, I think our philosophy on the show is not necessarily to tell people with crystal clear accuracy what the price of a particular card will be. We
Yes.
generally talk about profiles of cards. And the profile of a card like Thermopod, an uncommon from Cold Snap that, as DJ said, is very
It's a common.
powerful. Sure, wow, a common, yeah. This is still, even a common, this is the kind of card that has a very attractive profile because, like he said, if it spikes, if Kaldheim comes out in a couple months and snow's a thing and there's some red commander that does snow things, whatever, right? You find a reason, something to play your Thermopod in. He's right. It's going to be a $5 to $10 card overnight. And that's, if you're somebody who's either finding them in bulk or, wanting to put money somewhere, this is one of those long shots that really, really pays off when you get there. And it's basically very little downside. I mean, it gets reprinted and you're out, $20 or whatever, right? So yeah, I really like this pick, not necessarily because I have any faith in this card or snow or anything like that, but because it has a profile of a card that is a really attractive, break. This isn't even a pick of the week, but as far as, something to hold back. Yeah.
Do yourself a favor and go look at the price graph for Treasonous Ogre. That reminds me a lot of this card.
Yeah.
Which was something that will caught fire just... It wasn't even really a deck that did it. I think it was a couple Reddit posts. And that was all it took. But
I played
Treasonous
Treasonous
Ogre
Ogre for the longest time in my Marchesa deck, and I always felt like I was cheating with that card.
Pay 3 life to add a red, you can pay a lot of life. You can add 13 red if you really need to.
I would always just, blast, pay, 20-something life, blast them a sack to my board, and then they'd all come back with Undying, and I'd give them haste and kill people,
It's not bad.
That was just a thing.
Certainly not bad. All right. Well, while we're talking about some of this Commander stuff, I want to touch on Commander Legends. The set has been out for a few weeks now. In fact, we've been busting packs of it on our streams on Mondays. But this is the time now when we're at, I guess, more or less peak supply. If not now, right after Christmas or right before Christmas, whatever, right? People are going to get Christmas gifts, and we'll see what happens. But I wanted to talk to you guys and see what you think about some of the reprints in the set and whether we think they're dead or alive, basically. So let's start with the marquee one. I'm talking breaking bulk type picks, right? We're not trying to play the game with rares here. We're trying to figure out if our picks are going to stay picks or if they're not going to be picks ever. What do you think they're going to do with 3 visits now that they have finally peeled the Band-Aid off and reprinted the card?
Oh, this card will be a pick
I think
forever.
they'll reprint it again.
Well, here's the thing, though. My question is this. 3 visits is $3. Cultivate is what, $1.50? $1? Same with Kodama's Reach. And they reprint those a million times over. Do we think that and Rampant Growth is $1, right? Do we think now that they finally have reprinted 3 visits, it's going to stay $3 and it's going to rise to 10? Or is this a new baseline? They're printing this card, they're going to grind it into $1 and it'll always be a pick, but that's it. What do you think?
Maybe we don't have enough data for Mediate Track, but like 3 visits is way, way down. It's like the 70th most played reprint right now. And like, yeah, of course it's not going to be on a lot of decks. It was like $100 card. I get that, but also people live without this card for so long. Like, I don't think they are that horny for it. I think this is a card that was like, oh, it's another copy of Nature's Lore or whatever. It's $100. I don't think anybody that was like, wow, my second Nature's Lore costs 500 times as much. No, thanks. I don't think anybody that was saying that is like, oh, thank God I can pay $3 to put a 3 visits in the deck. I just think
my
people
question
got along
is
without it for so long, they just don't care anymore. It's going to be like Imperial Recruiter.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
This card will stay $3 plus.
Well, my thing was kind of asking more if we think that Wizards printing it this way is a sign of their, if it was only worth money because of scarcity and now they don't care, they don't want it to ever be worth money, that sort of thing.
Well, they don't make any money anytime someone buys a pack of P3K, right? Like I don't mind them chipping away at some of these ridiculous scarcity-based ones.
Yeah, I love it. Well, let's talk about some of these, looking at the list of uncommons, right? Obvious. Arcane Signet, Thought Vessel, Boots, Boros Charm, Reliquary Tower, Beast Within, Generous Gift. These are all picks we know are going to say picks and we're going to see again. What about the uncommon partners? There's, a dozen, however many of them there are. There's a lot of powerful ones. And I know we've said before, you can pick every legendary creature if you want. Do you think that holds true? I've been opening up a bunch of packs of Commander Legends. Should I be pulling all the legendary uncommon partners out and setting them back for a year from now to buy list? Or is it...
I do, but do you think Alharu's Solemn Ritualist is going to be more than 8 cents in a year?
No.
Well, the question is, are they going to be worth money, though? Are they going to be quarters?
You have to pick the good ones.
I mean, it has to be Tatiova tier, right?
Mm-hmm. It's the same with Dominaria, exactly. Like, you didn't pick Rona, whatever the Demir one was, or you don't pick the bad ones, you just pick the good ones.
Alharu, Solemn Ritualist, I mentioned because it's the number 2 most played partner.
Yeah.
The number 1 most played uncommon partner is Elena, Kessig Trapper.
Okay.
And I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, and I think of ones like around me.
Oh, hang on. No, it's not sorted, but the number 1 is Arden. Arden and what's the guy that makes rocks? Tago.
Well, see, and Arden and Arden is 20 cents. This is why I'm asking. Should we be picking Arden and putting them back for a year from now?
Collector boosters made Arden trash anyway. Like the full art foil might be worth something.
So you don't think that like just the uncommon base Arden you pull out of a pack is even worth?
I think collector boosters have made everything trash. I don't think if there were collector boosters at Dominaria, like set non-foil Tatiova would be bulk.
Okay.
Even a card that good.
DJ, do you agree with this take?
There's another...
Because I don't know what to make of it, to be honest. That's why I'm asking.
I mean, you pick that stuff if you're like super micro picking. You pick it because it's 3 cents, not because it's $2 in a year. But the other direction you go with this is if you are the person who is picking bulk and then selling that bulk on an outlet like Craigslist or Facebook. And I'm personally not anymore. I stopped doing all of that bulk transactions since Corona hit because I don't want to meet with randoms. But if you are that kind of person who is selling bulk lots, there is value to leaving perceived powerful cards in bulk, even if you think they might be worth a few cents later, because it increases the value of the bulk lots that you're selling. Like if you're doing $10 per 1,000 on 1,000 Magic cards or whatever, and then they pull a card that's like, this is a cool legendary thing that does a partner with a thing, I'm going to buy more lots of this. That is infinitely more value than the 8 cents you'll get in a year.
That's a great point, DJ. I actually, whenever I sell somebody a big lot of Magic of bulk, I usually go into my bulk rare box and just grab a couple and just throw them in there. Because if they feel like they got more than they paid for because I gave them 50 cents of rares or whatever, that's great, right? They feel that's good, So I actually agree with you that might be a real value to leaving these cards, because regardless of the price of them, regardless of the collector boosters pushing it, all of that, you're right. Arden Intrepid Archaeologist is a cool, powerful card. And if somebody's buying bulk from you, they might be super thrilled to pull it out. That's a good point, DJ.
So I have more information, actually. I looked it up, and I sorted better. And Rograk is actually the number one uncommon, and it's already worth 3 times as much as Arden.
That's that was what I was going to get to and bring that up, because, this card is about 75 cents, almost $1 already. So, and that's an interesting one.
But I think... Rograk's crazy. That card goes in the 99.
That card's weird.
It's it having partner and like being able to go in the command zone is okay in some scenarios, and like it's cool to have like that card that does that. But like they almost gave this card double strike. That's how crazy they wanted this to be. Yeah. So I think this has a better chance of going in the 99. So that's why I think Tatiova is different than something like Trago.
Well, and this is kind of the natural follow-up.
Tago, the rock guy. So, like, I kind of think being able to do both roles kind of matters on whether one of these can get over $1 in a year from now.
And this kind of follows up on the conversation we had last week about, are we entering a new era of printing? Because I'm looking down at the quarter uncommons in this set. Return to Dust, Abrade, Fire Shrieker, Harmonize, Mask of Avacyn, Burnished Heart, Flicker Wisp. These are all cards that were not only picks over the last few years, some of them were $2 or $3. And now I'm seeing them at trash, right? Like there's no, like they turned Flicker Wisp into bulk, right? That's crazy. So that's why I brought this up. It's like, is this a fluctuation of the market that is so wild that I should be holding onto these, or is this the new normal?
I think stuff recovers. You don't notice. Like, you don't notice it stuff. Like, if it's not something like Eternal Witness, you don't really check. You're not going to check in on a braid. Every week.
I ask because this is bulk that the three of us, well, I guess COVID aside, right? This is something that I suspect 9 months from now, assuming we can sort collections again, this is something that we will see. And and I have these questions, right? Should I be pulling Unquestioned to 30 and Return to Dust out because this is just a dip at the bottom of the market, or is it dead? So I don't know.
I think it needs more printings to be fully dead. You know what I don't like? Them putting the whole diamond cycle in this set after they made them obsolete. Like, that was just a real kick in the teeth.
They also put Arcane Signet in the set,
Yeah. Like, it just,
I agree with that.
It felt really limited, disrespectful.
Right? They didn't put them in there for Commander Constructed. They're in there for limited.
If you had never printed Arcane Signet, like, I would have been super stoked to get foil diamonds. I would have been so happy to get foil diamonds. And they had new art too. The new art's good.
Yeah.
It was so unnecessary to do that. Like, I played them up until...
Yeah.
I played them up until Arcane Signet. Like, I have the dark Felwar stones. They look awesome. I was still playing diamonds up until when these were printed. You know, like it just. And then Arcane Signet came along and just smashed everything.
Well,
and
you can't unring that bell. The other thing,
did it sell the Brawl decks for him? Did it really? Like, was it worth it?
Well, I mean,
These are
Gavin,
questions for Gavin Verhey directly, I think.
Yeah, we'll have
he admitted
we'll have to
on
ask
Twitter
Gavin.
that card was a mistake.
He did,
But like, it probably wasn't his idea.
well,
but.
he said it. He said it missed on the power level. But I actually and was thinking this with Commander Legends, and Keeper of the Accord is the one I believe I'm thinking of. That's the white one that does everything, right?
Oh yeah, Keeper of the Accord rocks.
Okay, so I was thinking about this. The concept of, are they trying to balance out a super cycle or a cycle of super staples and Commander similar to the way we used to have, or still do, however you want to look at it, right? Tarmogoyf, Young Pyromancer, Stoneforge Mystic,
Snapcaster
what did I miss
Mage.
there? Blue, Snapcaster Mage, and Black Dark Confidant. Is Dockside Extortionist, Keeper of the Accord, Opposition Agent, and Hull Breacher, those four.
So what's the red one?
Dockside Extortionist.
What's the black one? Oh, so
Opposition Agent.
so what's the fifth color we're missing? What are we missing?
Green, but all the cards are all the green cards are super staples. Eternal Witness, but like,
You know, kidding.
it seemed like
Kodama the East Tree?
no, well, like the idea is just like a super staple, right? That's going to go in every deck. That's just naturally like really powerful, right? Opposition Agent certainly fits the bill. Dockside Extortionist fits the bill. Keeper of the Cord kind of seems like it fits the bill for white. And blue gets Hull Breacher as well, which is also a super stable type card. And then green is green. I don't know. It was just an interesting theory because
Hull Breacher.
everyone talked about that for so long in Magic with the cycle of really powerful of legacy 2-drops, basically, right? And how it was kind of like they were. It almost was like they were conscious of it when they designed, some of the later ones to come.
It was a coincidence because like Legacy is gonna not play anything that costs more than 3 mana for a creature, right? So
I mean, sure, but like that was just a big deal for a long time. Was the 2-drop thing, and it's just an interesting concept for Commander because I do feel like we've talked about the super staples on this podcast a lot, and Commander Legends is filled with them, but not necessarily in the colors that. Like I do think they took some time to try to give the colors that really needed help some of the better cards. Hull Breacher.
How crazy is this set going to be in a year or 2 years?
So that's the question. Is it going to be
like we're going to look at
obsolete?
boxes of the set and it's like going to be like double what they are now, and everyone's like, yeah, that was obvious, but like no one said it at the time.
Or it will be obsolete because Omnath. Like, if
they
might go
make
the other
cards that makes this set obsolete, I don't think EDH is going to hang on much longer. And if EDH doesn't hang on, why would you have paper Magic cards? Like if they ruin EDH, they're ruining paper. That's what I really believe.
I don't think you can ruin EDH.
Some of these
just
cards
make
are
it
not
too
very
boring
fun
and
to play
predictable.
against. Some of these cards are not very fun to play against.
For you and me, and sure, but like the people will continue to play the game like forever, and like that.
Well, people also we
are vastly outnumbered by the people who will continue to play these cards happily.
But EDH is growing. All it needs to do is just start to shrink.
Right. Exactly. It's not a question of is everybody going to quit Commander. Is Commander become so much of a rotating format or whatever else that it actually does start to have a backlash? Probably not. Even if it kind of makes paper boomers like us a little sad along the way. I just thought that was something fun to think about because I do think I do like some of these really powerful staple-y cards they put into Commander Legends. I love the designs of them. Wish they'd cost them a little differently, maybe 1 mana more.
Dude,
but they're
crazy.
Really cool.
They printed something like Hull Breacher like 2 years after they printed a piece of dog crap like Crafty Cut Purse.
Yeah, like I just wanted a notion
could be as good as Hull Breacher,
but
like, why does Cut Purse only steal tokens the turn you play it? If Hull Breacher is just a thing that hangs around forever,
power creep, intentional power creep,
and it's a mana less. It's so dumb to me.
Power leaps, not power creeps.
Are they trying to breathe new life into Legacy? I just, man, I don't know what whole.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I say
good.
I brought this up to kind of give some positive attention to some of these cool cards and see if they're. So it sounds like though, unless you're just the top one or two, or the the cards your Beast Withins that are pretty much always picks. It seems like some of the uncommons you're saying you think might be dead. So keep an eye on that.
But this set isn't the only time to reprint stuff like this. Like, it was very comprehensive, but like, if you hadn't done Commander Legends, we would have gone another 6 months without another printing a Cultivate or Arcane Signet or Boros Signet, Well, and that's Simic Growth Chamber or Swiftfoot Boots. Like, they're doing EDH decks every set now. So, like, they are just going to do a ton more EDH reprints than they ever used to. Yeah,
and that's why. Yeah, I mean, that's why I think that some of these picks we're going to continue to be ground down, which is fine.
I don't even need them to do a big 5 EDH deck thing anymore. If they're going to do EDH decks every set, they're just going to go to reprint town. And these decks have like 3 new cards in them, and we're paying $30 for them happily.
It certainly gives them a lot of reprint equity there.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so stuff is they are coming up with new ways to reprint stuff all the time, and it just, for a while they were like, you can't smash Eternal Witness. It'll always go back up to 7, but like, Eternal Witness isn't going back up to 7, not after this. It's like $2 right now. So I don't know, man. I kind of think when any set they make can have reprints now. They're like, oh, these are special, command or collector booster only foil reprints of EDH staples. They can just put stuff wherever they want now. It doesn't matter. As long as you make it like etched foil, you can put it in any set. Be like, oh, these are only in the collector boosters. So like, it's an etched foil mana vault now. Yeah. I mean, they don't have to do that, but they could. Nothing is stopping them now. So, like, nothing is unreprintable at this point. Because we used to be like, well, I don't think they're going to do anything with a set-specific mechanic that's going to be really hard to reprint that. And they're just like, we don't care anymore.
The rules of reprints that we lived by for a long time do seem to be kind of going out the window. And it makes playing any kind of waiting game with stuff almost irrelevant. You just are supposed to flip everything. Yeah. It gets a little easier when we start looking at cards worth more, right? $5 to $10 plus. It starts to kind of change where and how they're going to reprint them. But for some of these $1 to $5 uncommon type staple-ish cards for Commander, you're right. They are going to, I think, just be coming down the pipe all the time now.
Oh, but guess who was right? That Thrasios Triton Hero wasn't going to be in Commander Legends. And it wasn't. But it was.
Well, I think next week, Jason will be paying up on that bet. Jason and I did a spicy bet over whether or not Thrasios would be in the set. It was. So Jason,
it was not in the set. It was only in collector boosters.
You get to hear it. Yep.
So all of my logic was correct, and Corbin still won the bet.
Do we need to have Gavin Verhey come down and adjudicate this again?
Oh, it has been adjudicated.
He will say both of us need to eat it. That's what he said last time. So.
That is true. That is what happened.
He will verify that we should both eat it.
Well, before we get out of here this week, let's get into pick of the week. But first, we want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors on this podcast, originalmagicart.store. Go check it out. We talked about the Foglio portfolio, the Foglio folio, whatever you want to call it. You should go check it out on originalmagicart.store. Use our code at checkout as well. You get % off. You'll be able to support this podcast.
I'm pointing down artists, to like a link. I'm pointing downward to like a link.
There you go.
Why are you doing that?
So that JJ can put it like flash a little thing on the screen.
JJ, have him pointing to something embarrassing. Don't have it be the link. Have it pointing to something that it would be embarrassing for DJ.
Yep, there you go. Well, please, everybody, go to original
boner pills or something like that. It's like, these are DJ's favorite boner pills. You can't just get them at a truck stop. You have to order these from Russia.
JJ, I'm the one that sends the PayPal invoices.
Yeah, just all right, well, go to originalmagicart.store, check all of that out, And now it is time for our pick of the week. I'll go first.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
I've got a Commander 2020 rare from a pretty broken cycle, and one that I think is cheap right now. Flawless Maneuver. It's the white one in the cycle of free spells in Commander 2020. 3 mana instant. If you control a commander, you can cast it for free. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. It came out of the gates pretty expensive. It's bottomed out. It looks like around about $6 market price. So I have to say, I mean, what we have seen is that they don't necessarily reprint the Commander yearly deck cards at the same rate, especially the ones that tend to have something more unique to that year. In this case, this cycle of free spells with Flawless Maneuver and whatever all the others are called. If you control a commander, you can play them for free. We haven't seen, they did Lieutenant or whatever the mechanic was before, and those cards were always pricey just because they mentioned your commander. And these cards in Commander 2020 are all going to follow the same trajectory, I think. And Flawless Maneuver, I think, is a really powerful one, free indestructible. So at $6, I think it's probably the cheapest it's going to get.
Cool. So my breaking bulk was predicated on getting a little play in the Jared Carthalion decks. Jared Carthalion is a apparently he was like the first named legendary creature in Magic lore or some crap, like in one of the books or the comic books or something. Look, man, I'm not a nerd. All I know is that Jared Carthalion True Air is a like a damage deck where you're like slapping Pariah Shield on him. So there's a lot of stuff that already popped. But like if you really dig down on what's getting played in the deck, I'm noticing that a card that has spiked already and therefore will spike more profoundly, Rite of Passage, is getting played in not only that deck, but also Naieth of the Dire Hunt, which is a card that is like $10 because it's in Jumpstart and nobody has Jumpstart. And also Marith, Will of the Wild, which just got printed in Commander Legends and will get people interested again. So we got 3 cards in the last year, or 3 decks in the last year that all want to make use of Rite of Passage. So like this was a card that people were playing, I guess, in what's that card? The guy Hardened Scales. People playing Rite of Passage in Hardened Scales decks.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you would remove a counter to deal a damage to itself, and then you put a counter back on, but Hardened Scales to give it 2 counters, so you would just like
that's right.
Counter machine goes. Well, Rite of Passage is going to be good in 3 commanders that were printed in the year 2020, and I think that makes it worth picking up at like $1, considering all the copies of this are going to be like concentrated in the hands of dealers. When a card spikes, everybody that has these in binders and boxes, they buy list them because this card was worth 50 cents yesterday and now a buy list is paying $3. Yeah, you're absolutely going to ship those. Mm-hmm. So all the cheap, easy, loose copies get soaked up. So when it spikes again, there are no copies in binders and boxes. They're all in the hands of dealers. So like the price goes way up.
Especially
so I kind of think that Rite of Passage like is at a tipping point and the stock is already drying up on a lot of sites. So I think Rite of Passage under $2 is going to be like a quick $5 buy list card here pretty soon.
Yeah, and it also, in the age of COVID, what you said about the second spike is especially true. DJ, what do you got?
Bear Umbra.
Bear Umbra. So we just got a Bear Umbra reprint a couple years ago, C18.
Yep. And
the last one.
This card is... it's just universally good. It's always been a budget sort of feast and famine, and that's just always a very powerful effect. But you can combine it with pretty much everything Jason just said about stacking it on commanders that you don't mind throwing your own damage at or having them would be dying, and just like protecting a linchpin of a deck that just wants to attack and beat face a lot. And then you untap lands and use them to do more really dumb things, like with Jared, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Carthalion? I brewed Amareth this week, and I threw a Bear Umbra in that deck.
I mean, Bear Umber is good almost everywhere. It was $15. Jason's right. It was actually spiking up pretty hard before the reprint. It was $15 before C18, and it's on its way probably back above 10. So I think that's probably a good pick. Good time for that one as well.
Before we pinch it off for the episode, there's one more thing that we wanted to talk about, and we're not 100% sure about whether we should talk about this as a podcast. I think we're a little bit split. My position is when there is a leak that's not an official spoiler, pretending that it didn't happen kind of does a disservice to your listeners. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I do think it's worth touching on, and that is my position on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know that I certainly agree with once it's out there, it's out there. I don't like following. In this case, we got very little leaked, so kind of like it's almost not even useful, basically. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. We buried it here at the end, so anybody who's around still, spoilers incoming for Call Time. But I agree, we should talk about it.
So what happened was, art was spoiled basically, but so we saw the booster pack wrapper because that was solicited to stores to buy it, but also they showed pictures of the front of the commander decks, and when you show the front of the commander deck, the front card is in there. So we don't know the contents of the decks, but we do know the two marquee new legendary Kaldheim creatures. Raynar the Ever Watchful, 2 colorless, blue and a white for a legendary spirit warrior with flying and vigilance. The first card, You Foretell, which is a keyword ability from Kaldheim that we don't know yet. Each turn costs, it looks like it says a snow mana to foretell.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you exile one or more cards from your hand and or permanents from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit token with flying. That's kind of whatever. I don't know what foretell is, but snow's back, so that's cool. But that was something that we already knew, basically. The next card is Larhill, Blade of the Elves, which is why I wanted to talk about this at all. It's a legendary creature with menace. Whenever it deals damage to a player, you create that many 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens, and then you tap a number of untapped elves. Each opponent loses 10 life, and you gain 10 life. I think Lair is basically the Nath deck. I think anybody that had a Nath deck probably puts this in.
Like
and
Nath
I think
of the
anybody
Guiltleaf, is that what you mean?
Nath of the Guiltleaf, yeah, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Are there 2 Naths?
I just want to clarify, because people may not be familiar. It's the green-black legend, elf legend,
Green-black,
right?
yeah. Whenever they discard, whenever your opponents discard a card, you make a 1/1 green-black elf token. I think Lair is basically the Nath deck. So I think if I might rebuild the Nath deck just to put this in it, but if you built this, some of the Nath stuff wouldn't be that bad. So I think there's going to be a lot of overlap between the 2 decks.
Tap 10 untapped elves you control is a good line of text. I like that.
Yeah. I don't know if I think it's 10.
Yes,
but
it is. Yeah,
each opponent loses 10 life and you gain 10 life. That's pretty saucy.
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
It's way easy to make 10 elves with Nath of the Guiltleaf.
It's also easy
I guess
to
with this.
It's also just easy to kill somebody with Seedborn Muse, right?
Also a good point, as a matter of fact, yes. Very much
people
so.
were playing that Druid where you tap 7 Druids and take all their lands. People were doing that. Yeah. It's way easier to make elves.
Guiltleaf Archdruid? I love Guiltleaf Archdruid.
Yeah.
That one's fun.
So,
I guess technically this confirms
I think
snow,
you just go to the Nath of the Guiltleaf page on EDH Rec and those are your specs.
There you go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Brainstorm Brewery. That was Jason. I'm Corbin. DJ hung in there with us tonight. It was a long night. We did some streaming before we podcasted. You can go check that out on Twitch at Brainstorm Brewery. And a final reminder, our Patreon end of the year rewards. They're coming. We have them all planned. We announced them a couple weeks ago. You can go to our Twitter to see what all of the details are. But long story short, if you are a member at patreon.com/BSB by the end of the year, at any level, you're going to get something cool. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. This is Brainstorm Brewery. We'll see you next week.